Okay. So we're gonna I'm gonna walk you through part one because I don't think I recorded it before Thanksgiving. So I'm gonna do it again. Some of you took my advice and didn't work over Thanksgiving. I didn't. That's cool. That's what I intended. All right, so let's go through part one together. All right. Y'all gonna help me. Those of you who've already done it can help me with code because I don't want to have to look things up. And it's Monday, so okay. All right, same thing we always do. We have to get the file going. New file. Go ahead and save it as something. I'm gonna put mine on the desk. No, I'm not. I'm gonna put it downloads. Why am I putting downloads? Because that's where I downloaded the CDS file to, and I don't feel like moving it. You put it wherever your tips file is. And remember, on my computer, it's going to get erased anyway as soon as I log out. Because I'm in the lab. And I didn't bring a thumb drive, so. I have Google Drives and all that stuff. I just don't need another copy of this because I have it everywhere. All right. So we're going to start a new file. We're going to do what we normally do and define our main first because that's the way I code. And let me, I know this is the end of the semester and all, but still your name, not mine. I can't tell you how many times I get projects, whatever, by me. It happens. So don't forget your call to main. And now we're going to start writing functions in the empty space. So part one, I'm gonna go really fast because this is the end of the semester, and you guys know how to read directions and you go back get the details that I'm missing, right? Theoretically, that's what I'm going with. So you already downloaded the file. You started idle. We did that. Okay. So basic stats for all temperature data stored, right? So we need an open and read function. It's kind of implied, right? And you should have one from lab 8 and assignment 8 at this point, right? So somebody read me off it where we can just go faster. If it has open and read, just tell me what I need to do. Okay. So we're not gonna pass it a file name, right? File name or file. Okay, I'm going over here and copy and pasting the file name because let's be honest, I would mistype that. I have to have quotes around it, right? And then we have to tell it it's a read only file, right? All right, so that's opening the file. Huh?
Separate the file name and
I just mistyped it. So we need a list to keep the temperatures in. I'm trying really hard to get y'all to interact with me today. It's just not working. Yeah,
Don't we need 3 different variables, one?
we're doing part one only. He's just giving you a hint. You are gonna need more lists when you get to part two. But right now, we're only dealing with part one.
We did this last time, lines equals file dot read
Say that again?
five for lines equals file dot
Huh?
lines.
You gonna read it again? Okay, lines.
This is what we put.
Okay, go ahead.
Equals file dot
Oh,
read lines.
that's because we were using somebody else's code. So absolutely can use it.
If I use something like assignment 8 or something.
Yeah, assignment eight's simpler. He went and found the gentleman that sits over here has actually had Java 1. He's backtracking to take this class. So he used a function that was already there. You don't have to use it. If you copied it, you're absolutely welcome to use it from last time. But does anybody have the stuff from assignment 8? Okay, you're on the front. I can hear you. What is
Okay, so it's, next thing we set up is a order current line in file for. This, it's on here, its values equals current line dot split, and then added comma.
So we're gonna split it first.
Equals. Oh, no, it was values equals current line. Dot split.
I can't type today.
The parentheses, in quotes, comma.
All right, so we're gonna split on the comma because it's comma separated line. I want to split it up. So I'm gonna go back and save you guys some trouble. We're gonna do low temps. And high temps. Why am I doing this? Because I know you're gonna need both of them, and we might as well put them in as we're going. You will need a third one later when you get to the part two to do the dates. But let's not talk about that right now. So we're gonna split it. And the next line would start filling in with
So like,
Yeah,
it's
got
gonna be 10 value.
So let's do low temps first. What position was low temps in? Do I remember? It's the second position, so that's index 1.
No, second position as in like the third.
So index 2, third
Yeah,
position. So the low temps are, yeah, okay, so it's high temps and low temps. Sorry. I got my, see, I don't look at this file that often either. So low temps are the last one, so that's the second index, third position, right? Now, we're gonna have to strip off the return character from that one, but we can do that later, or we can do it now. And do another split. How do I want to do this? I cannot type today. Now, would I do all of this in one line, in one function like this necessarily if we were doing this in the real world? Probably not, but we're just trying to get through this, right? I probably would split that off. Not in the same for loop normally, but I'm going to anyway, yeah.
You can also remove the slash n via reading it in as an integer.
Okay, how did you do that? Reading it as an integer. If you're gonna throw something out there, you gotta explain it to the class.
So essentially load, okay, so you would have load O temps dot append, and then have it be int parentheses keys, and then your split value. So like the index. I guess value 2, I suppose. If you need to, you can come over and see.
Oh, I'm looking at it right here, because it's from but I'm not gonna do it all in one line like you're doing it.
All right, that's fine.
Just leave it right there. So I'm gonna split this, right? Because I want to split that particular thing into 2 pieces. You don't have to do it for high temps because it's not at the end of the line. And then I'm going to append it now into low temps, right? Because now I can do low, 0, because split puts it into another list. Low is just a 2-item list. We want the first item. We want to throw away the return characters. Are there other ways to strip the return characters off? Yes, this is how we're doing it today. This does need to be an int. So I'm going to force it into being an integer. Right? So what I've done. Did I miss a bracket? Yeah. Yeah, okay. I do that all the time. It all runs together. Old eyes. So what this is going to do for the low temperatures is split the last column and take care of the return character. So we split it in 2 where the return character is separate from the number. Then we're going to take the number portion of it and put it into our low values list as an integer where we can do math on it. Right? And then we're going to do the same thing for high temps, except we don't have to worry about the return character because it doesn't have one. So it needs to be an integer also. And we're just going to grab values at 1. And I'm going to tell you the truth, if we needed dates, we would just set up dates and get them at 0. The only difference is with a date, you do not change it into an integer because it's not an integer. The slashes, you don't do math on dates, not traditional math, right? All right. Anything else you want to do in this function? I do want to return it, but I want to close it first.
I want to make sure to add more, yeah.
Oh, well, when I ran it, it would check it and tell me that. So now we want to do file.close. I don't know. I'm going to tell you why you don't want to sort these lists. If you sort them, the dates will not be right when you do part 2. Because if you sort the data independent of the date, you now no longer have it corresponding with the correct date. So do not sort your temperatures unless you're going to go back and reacquire the data before you start doing the dates. Does that make sense? Because we all have made that mistake in a Excel spreadsheet, right? And we've sorted on a column when we meant to sort the whole sheet. Then it doesn't match anymore. Yeah. If you haven't done that yet, consider yourself lucky because it will happen eventually.
I forget that this generation is mostly, Google Docs kind of people. I said this new generation. Okay, so, by the way, the school is moving back towards Microsoft, so. Oh, no, I love it. So what are we returning?
Return to the text.
You can't return two things, right? Yeah,
I guess in this case, shouldn't you like consecrate them to a list and then?
you can concentrate them into a list, or you could do this
Yes,
independent.
that's all.
So I've got you thinking now. Right? So we really should just get everything into values and return values, and then we get ready to process, do the other stuff. Right? That makes sense? So all the stuff we just did right here, I'm going to save for later. So how do I save things for later? I put it in a comment block and I can go back and get it later, right? Never delete something completely until you're sure you don't need it again. I can't tell you how many of my students go in, I had it almost done and I just got frustrated and I erased the whole thing and started over. No, comment it out so you don't need it again. All right, so instead of returning a whole bunch of things out of this one and doing a whole bunch of data sorting in open and read, we're just going to open it, read it into one singular list, and return it. Because remember, this goes back to our separation of responsibilities, the SRP, right? We want this to open and read. All we want to do is open and read. We don't want it to sort anything. Yes? So now we're just going to return values. We're going to grab these two things here because, again, we don't need them. Oops. Rough. Now, Control X. Put them down here. And we're going to put values back up here. Right? So I know it would have been less confusing if I'd have just done it the correct way at first, but I'm trying to teach you some valuable lessons about controlling which tier functions. I know it's the last week and all. I'm still hoping that this concept will catch on. Okay. So now that I've done that, I've returned twice. Why do I have to return twice? Now I can work on some sort of function that will let us manipulate the data, right? Now this one can do multiple things in it because we're manipulating data. And we're not having to return anything here, right? This is a print function only. Right? Because all we have to do is print data out. Are y'all with me? Everybody that's with me, look at me and okay. All right. All right. So now I'm gonna process temps. I don't know. And it needs a list. So it needs the temperatures. Right? Right? So when we call this, we're going to pass it in value because that's all of our data. Now I can do the highest, lowest of the day and break it up, right? So
since I just commented this stuff out, I don't have to retype it all. I do need my for loop that I didn't copy. Does that kind of make sense? I'm gonna pass the values from here into here, and then I'm gonna break them up. Yeah,
Okay, so in open and read, you do a variable assignment setting it to an empty list. And then for the for loop for current line in file, you then do another variable assignment for values to current line dot split on the commas. So wouldn't that just reassign it to the current line value instead of appending it to a list?
what? I didn't call it that. So, are you talking about this one that's,
No,
I think
up
he's talking
in
about
open and
values.
read.
alright, so up here, I want a list that doesn't change. I want this list to persist
Yeah.
through the for loop. So I have to define it before the for loop.
Okay,
If I define it the first time inside the for loop, it only lasts in the for loop and it gets rewritten every time the for loop runs.
okay, but it's not being appended, is it?
I'm not the line out.
it happens. No. Wait a minute. Yeah, I'm using the wrong variable names.
Yeah, that's what I was confused about.
It happens. This is what happens when you move things around.
It happens when you move things around. So we need a list of temps. The values in this case is just the line when it's read in. So he's right. I didn't understand his question, but he's right. So what he pointed out was that I was using values too many times, and I was. It happens. This is why I tell you to make sure that you're very clear about what each of your variables is doing, because it's really easy to mix them all up. All right. So now that I'm straight on that one, I noticed none of the rest of you caught that. Okay. It happens. All right. So now we're going back down here. Let's put some blank lines in where I can move it higher up the screen. So we got everything into low and high temps. So now we can start doing, we can find the highest temperature of the year, the lowest temperature of the year, the highest high temperature, the lowest low temperature, etc. Right? So let's start with 0.1. So let's print out A. I want to work with the high temps, right? But I can use the max function. Ooh. Oh, there's an S on the end of that one. So if you use max and min on a list that is integers, even if it's sorted or not, even if it's unsorted, it will go and find the maximum value from that list.
Guess what? There's also a min for the low temps. One of y'all have it open where you can tell me which the things are and I'll make this bigger. Right? So let's test these two. Let's test to make sure that everything we've got works so far.
You might need
Maybe. But let's test and see, right? So what do I have to do to test it? Well, I'm gonna add the parentheses first where you guys will like not die. Cause y'all never have syntax error, right? No, never.
need function calls.
So we gotta go back to main and do some function calls, right? Right, yeah. So open. Right? Yeah, could you open and read inside process temps? Yeah, but let's not confuse it. So theoretically, if I didn't make any more silly mistakes. Oh, look, I did.
Indentation layer.
Because when I copied it, when I removed stuff, I messed up the indentations.
Wait, are you?
No, I didn't mean to do that. I mean to move this
Yeah,
down.
I was about to say that when you close the file when it enters the loop.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. Oops. It's Monday. You know I can't type when y'all are looking at me.
Or do you need to do that?
You shouldn't have to do that if you do it here because you passed in the file. Or the list. This should have created a list. You gave the list of this, then this one just works through the list. Values not defined. Oh. That whole variable thing killing me again. Let's see what we got this time. Ah. I just fixed that.
Not sure if you need to define values outside of the loop.
No, I needed to fix this to temps. Because I copied and pasted.
Oh.
Or else did I use it? Oh, there it is. Don't change your naming scheme between the times you copy and paste.
The one in low is just a
Oh. We all know I can't spell. Oh, temp, yeah.
No, I
Because
think it's supposed to be temps.
but no, it's supposed to, it's just a singular
Oh,
temp.
then the other one, did we change?
No, the other ones are fine,
Right, so
as
it's
long as
like-
I'm, because it's just for the for loop, so I just have to be consistent. And I was not. Right? And you're gonna make sure that your output has consistent text in it, unlike me, who just writes whatever I want to. You're gonna follow directions. So that essentially gives you most of part one. So let's look at what else we have to do for part one. You want the lowest high temperature and the highest low temperature. You want the average high temperature and the average low temperature. You know how to do averages, right? You know, so let's do, I don't want to do them all. I want y'all to do some of them, right? Yeah. So I want to do one of the averages to show you another function that you may or may not know exists, right? So I'm going to skip down to E. Roll up, there you go. You can see. So I'm gonna skip a few, so I'm just gonna, I wanna do E, and I'm gonna do the average all in the print line. Do you have to? No, you can absolutely set up a variable and do the calculations and stuff outside of it. I'm gonna do it all in the print line. So I'm gonna do the average high. And just for room's sake, I'm shortening the prompt. You go back and do something that makes perfect sense, but I'm just doing this where it shows up on the screen. I cannot type today. You can do the sum of the high temps and divide it by the number of temps
Or the length of temps.
or the length of temps. Now, do we have to go get the length of temps? If we're doing the temperature for 2017 in Atlanta, do we have to go get the length? No, we could put 365 in there because most years are 365. But what if it was a leap year? And there's 366, right? So we're going to use the length this time because just in case, every 4 years or so, it's messed up. But some people have turned it in with just 365 there, and normally I don't count off for that. But to be more accurate, you'd use the length of the high temperatures. And that way, if you were just doing a month of them, because month lengths vary more radically, right? So you can do it that way. I need one more parenthesis, I think. Yeah. So theoretically, this should work, right? You want me to prove it to you? Or do you all just trust me? That's so nice that you all trust me, but we're going to write it anyway. You should never trust me. You've seen my typing. Why would y'all trust me after seeing how many typos I put in code? I think I have proven that that's a bad idea. I own that. It's okay. All right, so this gives us an average. This gives us an example of finding the highest and lowest, and gives an example of finding the average, right? What else is on that list?
The highest low temp.
That's easy. You just do the max of the low temps.
The number of low temps below a threshold value.
The number of low temps below a threshold value. You've done this before. You have prompted a user and asked them for a number. And once you ask them for a number, you run a for loop and you count how many of them are higher or lower using an if statement. Right? Yeah, I showed the code. Sorry, I was just trying to read what was over there. I'll eventually show you the code. So, am I going to do that for you? Probably not, because at this point, you should be really good at asking the user for a prompt and setting up a for loop to count how many numbers are greater than or less than the number you got, right? Now, I will be honest with you. When you go and start viewing part 3 and adding the dates in, you're going to have to do some of this a little bit differently.
I'm stuck on that part. Like, I literally just like put what you did to maybe think it would make more sense.
So
I have to.
So when you get all of this working for part 1, save a copy of it. Because if nothing else, you can turn in part 1 and have an 84, right? Yeah. Now, when you get to part 2, using min and max is not going to work for you. Why is min and max not going to work for you? For part 2, why is min and max not going to work for you? You may actually have to write a function to find the minimum and the maximum and the date. Or you may have to do some more coding. The reason it's not gonna work for you is because the min and the max doesn't keep up with what index number in your list was the highest or lowest number. Right? So you need a for loop. You can use min and max still if you want to. But you're gonna need a for loop that's gonna go and find that min and max, keep a count, and then you're gonna have to go get the date at that count out of a third list. And it's not necessarily hard. It is tedious and annoying.
Yes.
Does that make sense? So everybody today, before you leave, I gotta leave at 10:30, so it's 10:15 right now. In 15 minutes, and I'm gonna leave this code on the board for the next 15 minutes. I think you all should have part 1 100% working before you leave this room. And if you don't, you need to ask me questions before you leave this room. I'm gonna stop the recording now. We have Wednesday and Friday in class for you to ask questions, and if you're online, you have all week to send me questions. I think I have this due at midnight on Friday, and there's a reason it's due at midnight on Friday. The last official day of this class. All we have is finals week next week. We don't have official class dates next week. We only have the final exam day, which you are not required to come in and do because the exam is online. And the exam I will be turning on Wednesday afternoon, and it will be on until I think your exam's supposed to be on December 3rd. I think that's what the exam dates were. Not the 3rd, the 5th.
Yeah.
Which is middle of the week. You know, those days, like, they're wibbly wobbly, I don't count weekends. Look, I'll leave it on till whenever the final exam date for this class officially is. But you know, you really should stop arguing with me. I'm gonna give you like a week to take this exam when it only has to be open for 1 day.
Yeah.
All right, so let me stop this video and then I'll come around to do questions.